Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pedo.
Pat. How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty cool. I went to a speakeasy, which is illegal here in Chicago. All the bars are shut down, and you're not allowed to congregate in groups larger than 25. But I didn't give a shit, and I went anyway. And I thumbed my nose at the law, and had a baller fucking time Saturday night.
I didn't realize that you guys had all your bars shut down like that.
Oh yeah, they have been for a while, especially in the city proper. The outlying suburbs, it was there's a little room for nuance. You know, if you have outdoor seating, or you can do this or that. Although it's interesting because the structures that they're building for outdoor seating now resemble actual buildings themselves.
Right.
So it's
Right.
just like a building next to the building,
Right.
but now it's okay. But no, this was like legitimately like in a bar with the lights on. And the jukebox playing and the alcohol flowing. So it was.
Was there a lot of people?
Yeah, it was not a ton, but you know, I'm not going to go into too many details, but there was a decent amount there, and we had a real good time, and smoked weed with somebody that knocked me on my fucking ass.
Oh no.
Yeah, so like I had you know, I so basically I go to the dispensary here. Is weed legal out there by you? No.
Medically, yeah.
Okay, medically, but that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
So recreational is legal here. And they give you a certain amount that you can buy every trip.
Okay.
And I basically go every other weekend, if not every weekend, and buy that amount, if not for me, then for my mom, who's convinced that like they're going to change their mind at any given moment.
Okay.
So she's like trying to stockpile this shit. So and I could talk about this all because it's completely legal here in Illinois. Yeah. So I'm not giving up the goose or incriminating myself in any way. So yeah, so like I go all the time and I'm always buying shit, but it's mostly edibles, or they have like bath salts that you can use that are THC infused, or like lotions and stuff like that, like all this extra stuff. I don't get flour that often is the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
So I had reached the end of my flour stash and had just kind of rolled the joint and then gone to the speakeasy and went outside to smoke it. And there a friend of a friend was there, and he was like, oh, like, you know, here, when you're done with that, you should try this. So I tried some of his weed, and was significantly stronger.
Okay.
So much so, in fact, that I walked back inside and was completely like disassociated from myself for like a good 45 minutes. Just like sat there and was like, you know, on the Touch Tunes app on my phone. Like, do they have those Touch Tunes by you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So like just spent more money on Touch Tunes than I did the fucking bar. And was just playing music. And then finally, like, someone hit a light switch, like it wore off. And I was like, holy shit. Like, what the fuck happened? Like I was completely out of it for like, you know, and then it was just like boom, and it all came back down, and I was like functioning again. So it was a good time. It was a good time to get out there and kind of blow the cobwebs out.
Yeah.
And party. Because that's the thing that sucks about this quarantine, is that like, unless you're doing like, you're having parties, which is kind of like, I mean, it's not much different than what you did for your Halloween party, where like, I'm sure you're not supposed to have gatherings that big in like domiciles or anything.
Ours was just, you know, under 10 people. And I think we had exactly 10 people. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. So that was fine. But I mean, like, unless you're having house parties, like, what's your other option? Is like to sit at home and just like drink by yourself, which is fucking depressing. So it's like, you're already like kind of like,
it's weird.
Yeah. And it's not like I need alcohol to function, but I'm used to like
having a good time,
going out. Going what?
Having a good time every once in a while.
Right. You know, call me crazy.
Life. I mean, it's
right. But like, I like to like go out like at least once a month, or, you know, once every 6 weeks, and like go to the bar and have a good time and bullshit with people and be social. And I haven't been able to do that like in pretty much this whole entire year.
Yeah.
So it was nice to do that. And there's talk of potentially doing it again this upcoming weekend for Kwanzaa. So we'll see, because this Saturday is
Say it's a
Kwanzaa.
religious gathering. You'll be all right.
Right. Well, we're gonna dress in all white. It's gonna be a whiteout party too.
I'm not going to say anything about that, but
You're not familiar with those whiteout parties? Have you ever seen those? Where everyone dresses in all white? No.
Why?
Maybe it's a Chicago thing. I don't know.
It sounds like I'm not going to say what it sounds like, but
what? No, a Klan meeting? No, it's very much not at all.
On Kwanzaa,
no, there's no
days, Pat. I mean,
well, that's just timing. I mean, it's not intentional.
Why does everybody dress in all white?
I don't know, but I used to work at a hotel that had big meeting spaces, and there was a group that came in the first Friday of every month and had a whiteout party. I mean, they're like a thing. Like, Google it. It's all over the place. Yeah, it's something that like groups do, and it's like a costume party. It's like a theme, but it's not like, oh, we all got to dress like flapper girls and dudes have to wear like tails or something. It's something that anyone could potentially do with stuff they already have in their wardrobe. They do them around Labor Day a lot, because you know how you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day, so it's kind of like a fuck you to like convention or something. I don't know who's rebelling against the Labor Day people, but
so edgy.
I know, exactly, right? Like, I didn't know those people needed to be taken down, but good for you, I guess.
Yeah, no,
maybe they're communists or something.
I've never done that. I don't even think I own anything that's white, so I don't.
I don't think you do either.
I'm pretty sure.
I have not seen you bust out a white belt yet.
Oh,
I'm waiting.
My barbecue shirt. I got my barbecue shirt is white.
Right.
I guess.
Well, guys can just wear like wife beaters, and then I don't own any white jeans currently. I used to, but I don't think they'll fit me.
I don't think that's a style anymore. I think that's like a really dated. Like, I don't know if anybody can get away with wearing white jeans. But I guess, what would you wear? Sweats? I mean, I don't know. You gotta wear white.
Right.
Ones. I'm a girl, so I could just wear a white dress. Oh, I have a white dress, but it's got like blood all over it. I could. Does that count? I do.
Is that in the design, or was there an incident?
So it was definitely in the design. I bought it that way. So
okay.
At least that's what I tell everybody. So that's
right. Oh, okay.
But that's the closest thing I would have. So I guess I could wear that. And I don't know. That's interesting. A whiteout party. I'm probably going to have a New Year's Eve party. Which again, it's not going to be, a lot of people. I know my circle, and again, when you have a house party, then you're kind of in control of who shows up, for the most part. So I know my circle. I know where they've been. I know what they've been doing. And I can trust that, when they are out and about, they're doing the things that they need to do. So, I mean, I don't see the harm in that. I think a lot of people, there's people that take these stay-at-home things too literally, and then there's obviously the people that don't take it seriously at all. And it's like, just fucking use common sense, guys. It's not that hard. It's really not. And I understand anyone can have the virus at any time. I get that. If you go to the grocery store, you're exposed. I guarantee you that. And and everybody's got to go to the grocery store. So like, I get that. But like, Anne, I won't say where Anne works, but Anne works for Big Pharma, and she's tested once a week. So, for the most part, I know that Anne's a safe bet. I can hang out with Anne and not worry about it as much as hanging out with somebody that doesn't get tested once a week. Some of the other people that I hang out with, they don't work with the public at all, so they're probably not a huge risk. You have to live a little. You can't just stay cooped up in your house. It's
honestly, the idea of putting myself in danger, like, or anything like that, didn't even occur to me. And I think that, like, I am typically a pretty screwed down tight, responsible person, that I think I am privy to occasional bouts of insanity. And that's just how I write this up. Was it like terribly irresponsible and probably stupid? And like, now am I probably going to develop symptoms that I'm on a podcast bragging about it like 4 days later? Yeah. I mean, I could see that happening, but I mean, fuck it. Like, I don't think, for me, the opportunity arose, and it was kind of like, it was like perfect timing on a couple different fronts. And also, I think it was like mentally just like what I needed to do. So I did it, and people can judge me harshly for it, but guess what? people are going to judge you harshly anyway.
Yeah, I know.
And
You're only human.
if I legitimately lose friends or something over it, well, then you're not my fucking friend.
That's a
So
weird flex,
whatever.
but okay. I mean, if you were doing it every week,
Uh,
you know.
but
then
that's
you're
kind
not-
of the narrative on. That's the narrative on social media, though, is like, fuck you if you do this, fuck you if you go out and go to, if you go to a restaurant or it's just that, like, even that, like when because
Yeah.
the restaurants were open here for a while, and it was like, well, are we supposed to go and support the service industry, or are we supposed to stay home and stop the spread? Like, is it like, fuck you if you don't help the waiters, or is it like, fuck you if you it just seems like no matter what side, no matter what you do, you're going to find some segment that thinks you're a dick for it. So, like, whatever,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
know a no-win situation when I see it,
at the end of the day, you have to adjust your life accordingly to you and your needs. And for now, take the wants out of it, but put your needs into it. And some people's needs are some degree of social interaction. That's what it is. Now, if you just want social interaction, maybe every single day, you could probably cut back on that a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm not one to talk because, you see, I have these parties, and I think that they're really important to, give people kind of a safe space that, I'm not making everybody get a test before they show up. But again, there are people that I know that are responsible, that are doing the things that they should do. And I just don't see how the risk is any different having these people over than, again, just going to the grocery store, going to the gas station. It's pretty much the same degree of risk. So,
Right,
and then
right.
everybody's welcome. And if they don't want to show up, that's on them. It's not up to me to decide how they feel about a pandemic. It's only up to me how I feel about it. So,
Yeah.
but I don't blame you at all. I'd go. I wish we had one here. We were actually trying to find them in the beginning when all this happened back in the spring, and everything shut down completely, and we didn't have bars and stuff. So we were calling around, but like the bars were open for quote unquote food. And we were calling around to different bars in the area, and we found a couple that were like, who is this? we're like, hey, are you open?
Right.
Like, who is this? So, they'd be like, hold on. They'd put us on a hold, and then they'd come back, and then they'd be like, oh, sorry, we're just open for food or whatever. Obviously those people were open. They just were open to a select group of maybe their regulars or whatever, but they were still obviously, operating. Now our bars and stuff are open until 10. So, you can drink until then, but then the virus is going to come get you. So it comes out at night, I guess.
I will say this, when I started telling us, I wasn't telling everybody that would listen. I saved that for after the fact on this podcast, but where I'm literally telling anyone that will listen that what I did. But leading up to it, the very few people that I mentioned this to, some of them knew of other places that were doing the same thing. Right. So I think that it's not as isolated as, I don't know if, some people might think. Some people are like, well, of course they're fucking doing this at places,
right?
Right. But yeah, I went to one place in the neighborhood, and I mentioned it to a friend from the neighborhood, and they said, oh, well, this other place is doing it as well. And so places are doing it. I was surprised that, like, I thought that there was going to be cash only, and they were like, no, you can use your debit card. And I'm like, well, isn't that going to be problematic? But I guess they're not concerned.
So, yeah. Well, right. Exactly. Whatever. I mean, I think they just get a fine, and then they move on. I think that if they get so many, they get shut down, but just depends on what you're doing locally, I suppose. But, it's whatever. I don't judge you for it. So that's all that matters.
Well, thank you.
That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah,
how was your week?
I had a pretty good week. I've been busy doing a lot of work stuff that I was kind of telling you about before, but I don't think it's anything that I'm ready to share yet, so I'm not going to. But
okay.
There's a lot of stuff happening, so it's very exciting. And it's exciting. There's a whole new podcast. There's all kinds of other podcasts that I'm supposed to be on. There's a whole new fucking YouTube series that's getting ready to come up. Just there's a lot of stuff. So it's exciting. But I did go out yesterday with my superpowers, and I went to I went to a park after dark, and I drank beer.
Nice.
I did, like a teenager. Anne and I we did a lot of we did a bunch of witchy stuff. We did a lot of manifesting and stuff like that. So what we did was kind of fun. Was we made it's going to sound crazy to people that don't do shit like this, but we made little manifestation ornaments. And so basically we took paper and wrote down different things that we would like to see happen. And made them up to be little ornaments. Well, we put them in like these little paper envelopes as well, because the thing about it was that we were going to take them and go find a tree outside and put them on the tree, like make our own Yule tree. And so we made like little envelopes to stuff them into to stick in the trees. So we go out and we decided to use Randonautica to try to find a tree. And at first, Anne had like a really good spot for a certain tree, and we tried to go there, and that tree was gone, but it was okay. It was an adventure. And then we randonauted, and it took us to the perfect place. And so we went to the park, and one of the things we brought with us was beer to give as like an offering, because spirits like spirits. So we brought beer, and Anne's like, here, drink some of the beer. And she drank some of the beer, and we poured the beer out, and then we left the park. And it was, that was it. we left their little manifestation ornaments, and it was great.
Well, that couldn't have been it, because you told me earlier that it was a late night. So, I mean, then what happened for the next
it was not
6 hours? That wasn't. It's not exactly where the story ends, but whatever. You can stop whenever you want.
Yeah, and then we went back to my house, and then we drank some more beer. So,
Okay.
it wasn't crazy exciting or anything. Just hang out with Anne, but I mean, it was fine. But it was fun to do something ritualistically with somebody, because normally I do a lot of the stuff by myself, because it's so personal to a lot of people. And Anne's been like really, I don't know, she's been feeling it lately. And so she's been, wanting to really, Anne's practiced before, but she's really been wanting to get into it more, and that's fine. And so she's kind of been looking to me to help her, get into it. And so we had kind of planned this out for a while. We had been talking about, she's like, I think we need to do something on Yule. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. I was like, that's also the Great Conjunction. And she's like, yes, then we absolutely need to. And so, we've been kind of working this out for a minute, and that's the plan we came up with. And that's what we did. We also, I showed Anne the spirit box. Okay. So, so originally the plan was to, whenever we got to our location, we were going to try to bust out the spirit box and see if there was anything that, we needed to hear about. So we, but Anne's never done the spirit box before. She's kind of afraid of it. And I'm like, well, don't be afraid. I'm like, let me just show you how it works. So I show her I'm showing her how it works, and I just cut it on. Then I just, you listen to it. It's loud as fuck, and it's unsettling, but it's just cycling through a bunch of radio stations, right? And sometimes you'll hear something, you'll hear it say something. Sometimes it's sentences. It just depends on what it is. And
so explain to the audience real quick what a spirit box is.
Yeah. So, again, a spirit box is a device that, like, it's like if you were listening to a radio and you were able to like skip the stations really, really quickly. So it goes through the stations really fast. And so but it's not like, it's very fast. So while it's going through all the radio stations, you might pick up words. And so some believe that those words are, ghosts or spirits or, something else trying to talk with you. So it can be interesting. But so Anne's afraid of it. So we cut it on, and, we're listening to it for a second. And she's just not really, she's such a skeptic, she's just like, I don't buy any of this. And Anne, every single time she's skeptical about anything, gets her ass handed to her. So, so we're listening to the spirit box, and she's sitting there like she's folding up a paper envelope, and all of a sudden spirit box says Anne. And she just like fucking dead stops what she's doing. She looks up, looks at me. So I turned it off. I was like, oh man, I've got something to tell you. So by the time we got to the park and we did our thing or whatever, so like on the way there, so the tree that we ended up at was at a local park, and there was a police officer parked right on the corner. And I'm like, and it's not very good coverage because the park is like right in the middle of a suburb. And so I was like, we probably shouldn't stay here long, but we need to leave our stuff and we need to go. So we didn't get to use the spirit box anymore. But, I'm happy that I have turned Anne into a believer on yet another thing. So, she always gets hit with those things. Anne, again, she'll still tell you she doesn't believe in the Mothman, but it's bullshit. I know. She's been.
So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Where did you make this, or did you buy it somewhere? Or?
The spirit box?
Yeah.
So I actually just use an app on my phone. You can download and there's a bunch of them. The one I use is called, I don't even know. It's called like Sonox 10 Spirit Box or something. Sonox, Sonox 10 Spirit Box.
So it's an app that cycles through FM frequencies for you?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
It does it quickly. And so when I was skeptical about using it on the phone at first, but I guess I don't see why it couldn't work the same way, right? It's just a radio. That's it. So why wouldn't it work? Because it's digital channels. I mean, especially for the purpose of what I'm using it for is more so not contact. I don't know if I believe that something's actually speaking to me when I use it. I think it's more of synchronicity, and it just tells you what you need.
I think as long as you can verify that it's actually scanning some type of frequency, it's supposed to be that. I would assume that how this works is because you're flipping through it, you're pulling out. It's the randomness of it that might create communication. So, but I don't know if your phone has like a antenna on it that would pick up FM frequencies. But as long as you're picking up some frequencies and you're not using like a pre-generated message, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not just a wave file that's playing what sounds like. But it sounds like you had like a genuine experience with it where it said her name.
It said her name,
right. Which is. Right. So that's cool. You should try that.
It's said things to me before. I'll cut it on sometimes, and sometimes you won't get anything, so it's so I wouldn't think. I think I've played with it enough to know if it started repeating, because I've been using it for a couple of months now, and I don't feel like there's been any repeats, but I mean I guess there could be. I'm open to the idea that there could.
You should be a spokesperson for them. See if they need
get them to sponsor me.
Yeah. And be like, hey, I got these pictures I can sell you, and you can like Photoshop in like your app, and for like their advertising campaign.
Get it together right. Like I will sell this for you guys. It's a pretty simple thing. I mean, like I said, anyway, when I was reading about it, it was during one of the big West Virginia trips that we took, and I was kind of, gearing up, and I'm like, well, I want to get a spirit box, but they're like $100 for that thing. And it's like, but why? For something that just scans radio stations? That's weird. Why can't? So I'm like looking into the possibility of apps, and I'm like researching it, and I'm like, other people seem to not have an issue with the apps at all. I mean, granted, like you said, it might not be able to pick up like a ton of or even FM frequencies. It's probably more like AM. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like any type of radio has like a little antenna, and that's how it picks up the things. And usually, like if you have an app that, but I don't, dude. I'm just talking to my ass at this point. Don't listen to me.
But like if you get on your computer, you could type in like free radio, and it like brings up like actual radio you could listen to.
Yeah, but I think that's okay.
So like if you're using it in some type of frequency, I don't know how it works. I don't know. And guys, how does this work? You tell me.
Right.
I don't know radios like that. I just, you know what? I've been using it, and it seems to be working. So I'm not really a ghost hunter in that sense. So maybe I've been talking to a guy that is, though. Maybe I should ask him what he thinks about it. That's what I'll do. I'll ask him what he thinks.
You can get spirit boxes on Amazon. This is crazy.
Are you looking them up?
Yeah. You need to put together an Amazon wish list with ghost hunting gear. That's what you need to do.
I really do. I need to do better at my asking people to buy me stuff.
Jesus.
I'm always
some people have, yeah, it seems like half the people on Twitter have like, that's what their link is. My link is my link tree. Other people's like link on their Twitter profile is their Amazon wish list. Like,
and what am I doing wrong? People will, they buy me stuff. I'm too humble to ask for it, I guess. And,
yeah.
But that's the thing, I guess, if people want to see me do these investigations and do all these things, then like you guys need to pay me to do it. The government's not going to pay me to do it. That's for sure. You know, it's not. You
Right.
can't go down to the fucking paranormal temp services and get a job. You know, that's not how this works.
And I feel like this is a lot more altruistic and like, you know, it's not like you're asking for a pair of fucking boots. You know what I mean? It's like this is ghost hunting equipment. This could potentially lead to discovery that changes the face of humanity. You know what I mean? Like this is like investing in our future. Like, you
Right.
know, don't donate to some, you know, teach little girls STEM foundation, you
Right.
know. You
Right.
know, buy me infrared cameras.
Yes, that's what I
You know.
that's fuck them kids. I need cameras.
Right. The kids are going to grow up to me and need cameras anyway. So just cut out the middleman.
Those kids are
Give me the
going to grow
cameras
up
now.
and they're going to follow in the footsteps of my research. Okay. That's
Exactly.
yeah. So, you know, but like, I never ask for things, and that's just, I mean, nobody owes me anything. And I know that. But if you guys want to buy me stuff, you're
There you
allowed.
go.
So most of the time, yeah. I mean, I've got, so like I made an Amazon wish list, and the big reason why I made it was for like family, for like, you know, gifts and things. And so, and I played with the idea for a minute, and I'm like, do I share this out to the fans? Do I not? So like there is stuff on there that I want. But then I think the obvious stuff that I need for work is on there as well. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
If I was a girl, I would have one. I'd have several.
Everybody says that.
But
And
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you know, I wish I was a bad person like that. Like I wish I could just be like, you're not worth anything to me unless you buy me things. But
Well,
I joke about it, but I'm just not cut that way.
well, you don't need to start calling everyone fucking pay pigs and like
I like that. I
there's,
mean,
there's steps to things, you know.
that's true. I just try to be a good person. That's my goal. I just hope that I'm a good person. So,
I think you're a good person.
well, thank
I
you.
think you're all right.
So yeah, that was, I mean, I don't think anything else has really, again, anything that I can really talk about has been a thing. The dog man recently continues to be a big pivotal part of my life, and I just don't know about it. I just don't know about it. You know, working
What's going on with it now?
well, just working with Ryan Tremblay now, he's introduced me to all these people, and it's great, but like all of them are obsessed with the dog man, and I'm like, oh, okay, but you know, I feel like I'm like the only one in Mothman's corner right now. It's just, I'm out of my wheelhouse, you know. And so he's like, he introduces me to all these people, and like the first thing they always ask me about is Dogman, and I really don't know anything about it like that, you know. So it's like, I just feel very out of my element. I mean, I'm, you know, willing to learn, but it's just not, I mean, for me, it's a very recent creature. I mean, I've heard of it, but I always thought it was kind of ridiculous. And even like even up till talking to Ryan Tremblay, to me, it was just unrealistic. But I mean, hearing the guy tell a story, and, you know, I don't have any reason to not believe him. And then there's all these other people that have stories about it too. And it's like, you know, there's got to be something to it, I guess. You know, whatever that something is, there's got to be something there. But I don't know much about it. So I'm going to continue to research it. But I've got all kinds of people that would like to come on this show and share their experiences. And I'm like, that's fine, but let's have some episodes between the Dogman episodes. How about that? So we'll see.
Well,
We'll see what happens.
people jerk off to all kinds of weird shit. So I guess, you know,
They're just
the fact that you've stumbled into that subculture, I mean, there's, you know,
Yeah.
there's people that are into ponies as well.
That's and they're like, and you know, everything's a dog man now. It's not just Bigfoot. And then it's like, it's crazy. It's so weird. And it's like just weird stuff. Even like they're talking about like animal attacks, like people getting like killed by wild animals, and they're like, oh, it was a dog man. And it's like, not everything's dog man.
Well, what episode? I mean, that goes back. That was a previous episode we were talking. It all depends on your starting off point, right? Like we
Yeah.
weren't talking about creationalism and how old the Earth is, and if you come to the evidence with this kind of predisposition, then you're going to interpret everything through that lens, right?
Sure.
So if you have people that are of the dogman mindset, when they come across a story of an animal attack, they're going to kind of shape what they see to fit that narrative, you know.
Right.
And if you have people that are Bigfoot orientated, they could potentially curve the things that way. And, not that I'm saying these people don't have objective minds. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, and
But
that's
it
fine.
sounds like you stumbled upon a cult of dogmen worshipers, and
It
you
is
know,
what it sounds like. I don't think it's not like that. Well, it kind of is. I mean, you've got the people that stand for the Mothman. You do. You have like a whole cult of Mothman people, and everybody just assumes that I'm part of that cult. Now, I happen to know more about the Mothman, but I'm not. I'm not part of the following. I guess I'm not like in a following. I think that most of these things are the same thing. So, there's the
right,
I don't really have a favorite like that, and these people definitely have a favorite. And that's fine. That's okay. It's not their issue. They're not a problem. I'm the problem because I don't know really. I'm out of my element. I don't know what they're talking about, and I don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about it. So I need to learn.
right. And anything that kind of pushes you to grow is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I'm definitely willing to listen to all these people. I'm excited that I've got this door open to all these people, with all these Dogman stories and stuff. I definitely want to hear about it. It's fascinating for sure. I just don't know what to do with them yet. So, I'm still trying to kind of work that out and figure out, what my next step is. So, and then hopefully I can, bridge the gap and be like, oh, well, if you like Dogman, then surely you'll like, Mothman or whatever, that's my go-to right now. But, so it'll be interesting. But yeah, that's basically, I mean, I've been doing a lot. I've been doing a lot, guys. I'm sorry. And meanwhile, my like social media posting and stuff has taken a hit. So, but that means you guys are going to get better content. So I think it's fine.
Cool.
So anyway, so we, in a couple days, it's something's gonna happen. It's gonna be a big deal. It's Christmas. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
yes, we have Christmas in Chicago.
oh, you do? Oh, well, I guess you're in the Midwest, so
yes, this region of the country observes it.
Do you guys have any traditions that you guys do?
I mean, besides whiteout parties?
Yeah. Yep.
No, I mean, I think I grew up Catholic, so
Okay.
we would maybe watch church on TV. Not really do too much. I mean, my kids are this is the first post Santa Claus year. So yeah, so it's kind of it's weird. We don't know if they're gonna fucking break down in tears or not. Probably not.
Probably they're gonna be fine, but
right. Well, it's nice that
tears. That's
no. It'll be nice to finally get credit where credit's due. But yeah, I honestly, as far as traditions go, no. Sometimes my wife's family's from Fort Wayne, so sometimes there's a trip back there. I don't think that's going to happen for me specifically this year. But sometimes there's that, so we go out there, and luckily it's hitting on a Friday, so it's a 3-day weekend, which is kind of nice.
Do you guys do like the bacon cookies and the movies, or
Christmas Eve the kids watch Polar, what is it? Polar Express?
Yeah.
Right. We do that. And then, we'll do Christmas Eve at my mom's house. And then Christmas Day we do here. And that's it. It's going to be a 3-day weekend, which is nice.
Well, this year is definitely going to be different for a lot of people.
Right. It's kind of, it's a weird, obviously it's a weird year.
Yeah. So. I still am not sure if we're doing anything exactly. So we'll see. But, I try to do, I guess we don't really have too many traditions. We do the elf thing, the elf on the shelf thing.
Yeah, we did that up until this year.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's over with.
You know what? Yes. I kind of can't wait. But it can be fun when you're into it, but when you got to do it every fucking day. I pushed it off this year. I pushed it off. We didn't get the elves until I don't know, middle of December. I was like, maybe they're quarantining for COVID.
There was a lot of putting the elf up high, in high places.
Yeah.
And being like, how do you get on top of the fridge?
Yeah, right.
If we didn't have a concrete idea for the next day, it's like, oh, now he's on top of the bookshelf. But then the problem with that is that, I have I have a 2 kids with 2 different moms, and I've joint custody of my daughter. And when she would come stay with us, her mom, like, just basically wrote her own rule book when it came to the fucking Elf on the Shelf.
Oh,
And like,
okay.
she had this water bottle that had fucking magic shit in it so that she could touch it. So like, we had to play by this cockamamie fucking rule that she came up with. So it would be like, okay, my son was like, he can't touch his, it's up on the thing. Like, oh, like, that's Rexy's over there, he's doing that. And then she would show up with hers and like, oh, and she could play with it and shit. And it's like, he would be like, well, how come she does whatever she wants with hers? Well, because I have this water bottle I can spray with it. And it's like, listen, we need to sit down and fucking figure this out.
Right.
Right, because you're deviating too much from the script, and like, it's getting confusing, and you're going to blow the whole story. So yeah, it was confusing, and it was a hassle, and it also wasn't anything I grew up with, so I didn't really see the importance of it.
Yeah.
You know, the Elf on the Shelf thing kind of came about like, what, maybe
Very
10 years ago or
yeah,
something. Like,
very
it's,
recently.
yeah, and it ain't going nowhere. So, and now they have animals too. Have you noticed that?
They've got animals, they've got clothes, they've got furniture. I mean, it's a whole, there's movies about them.
What a racket. Can you imagine being and did you ever, like, have you, I'm sure you have, but like, you know, for the listeners out there that haven't been blessed with children, the, the movie and the book that spawned this was like not written any better than the fucking Twilight books were. Like, this was
the movie.
oh my God, it's abysmal. It's
it looks ugly. It's very ugly.
It's shitty animation,
Yeah.
but I mean, even like, just like this is just some goofball that came up with this shit, and somehow it just like caught on, and they got to be a fucking like bazillionaire by this point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what a weird tradition, and I'm glad you brought this came up, because this is like a modern day Christmas tradition that we really saw develop before our very eyes, that came from like absolutely nothing. And now it's this huge thing, and who knows how long it'll be around for, maybe potentially until the end of mankind.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's a very new thing. I mean, there's still a lot of people that don't do it, you know, that's
right.
But you know, it's really becoming commonplace. More and more people do it every year. So, you know, it's definitely, yeah, mine has a whole family that we've got a boy and a girl and a dog. So it's
of elves?
Yeah.
So you have to move all of that shit every night?
Yep, every night. It kind of makes it easier when they have a partner in crime, because then they can do stuff together.
I guess.
I mean, so it's not that bad. But yeah, their names are Elfie and Alfonso. I know, right? I know. I don't think the dog has a name. I've never mentioned it, so.
Okay.
But yes, that's the elf family. Some elves have babies. I've seen people have their girl elves get pregnant, and then they're supposed to have a baby. And I've seen parents trying to find where to get babies from. So what they do is they take the Barbie babies and use them.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. So yeah, so we see, you know, so this happened. It was nothing cultural that happened. It was just to add a little Christmas magic to kids' lives, right? I mean, there was nothing, like you said, there's nothing really that set it off. It came out of nowhere. So, you know, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the topic, and that is these weird, kind of Christmas traditions from around the world, and you know, specifically figures. So. Everybody knows Krampus, right? You know Krampus? It's actually not Krampus, it's Krampus. And people hate us because we're American and we call it Krampus. But you know, everybody knows who Krampus is. You know, Krampus comes and takes the bad kids, throws you in a bag, and beats the shit out of you with switches, basically. And and then he goes on his way. And now it's kind of turned into like a bigger it's kind of more like a party thing anymore. It's kind of an interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely been an uptick in once again the past 10 years, almost running counter to the Elf on the Shelf, where now you're starting to see it and portrayed in horror movies more. And you know, I think it's more.
The interesting thing about Krampus was that there was a how I found out who Krampus was because there's this picture, and it still goes around on the internet, of this kid standing in between these two adults, right? And they're dressed like burglars, basically. They look crazy. And the caption always goes along with the picture is that this picture was like found somewhere randomly, and this kid was abducted by these two people, and this was the only picture evidence that they had, and they don't know where he is. And the picture is not, it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It's just simply a kid, and he's freaked out, but he's standing next to two Krampuses. They're Krampus people, they're dressed as Krampus. So that was the first time I had ever, found out about it, was, trying to figure out, because at first I'm like, oh shit, this picture, what's the
It's a legit missing kid?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. Right. It's not. But the kid is freaked out. I mean, like I said, he's scared. I'll try to find the picture and send it to you. I might use it for this episode promotion. But yeah, it's it's just some kid with two Krampus people. But like I said, the people don't. It's an old picture, so it's like in black and white and everything. But they're just dressed as Krampus. That's what there's. And he's scared because it's Krampus, and there's two Krampuses at his house.
Right.
So obviously, but so that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I can find it. I'll try. But yeah, so that's how I came up with that. And I mean, that kind of, struck my interest with, finding these other legends, because I guess it never really, I mean, I was pretty young when I saw it, so it never really occurred to me that, there were other traditions and that they were possibly scary. So Krampus is one of them. You are going to tell me about the pickle.
I had never heard of the Christmas pickle until you brought it up. And
yeah, I don't know about this pickle.
So I guess it's tradition. It's funny because all these traditions, like they all have like ties to Germany. But I guess it's a tradition in some households to hide a pickle as an ornament somewhere on the Christmas tree. And whoever finds it gets like an extra present or something.
Yeah.
And what the origin of that, there's several of them, but they're all pretty macabre. And one of them says that one of the legends is that there was a fighter in the American Civil War who was of German descent. And he was a prisoner, starving, and he begged the guard for one last pickle before he died. The guard took pity on him and gave a pickle to him. The pickle gave him the mental and physical strength to live on. So it became tradition to, like, pickles are like signs of, like, good luck or something, right? And the other story is linked to St. Nicholas, and it's a medieval tale of two Spanish boys traveling home from a boarding school for the holidays. When they are stopped at when they stop at an inn for the night, the evil innkeeper killed the boys and put them in a pickle barrel. That evening, St. Nicholas stopped at the same inn, found the boys in the barrel, and miraculously brought them back to life. And then there's another one.
Okay.
Yes, this is the shit you told me about. I didn't know about any of this stuff. And then, but it basically there's a variation of it where the Nicholas or St. Nicholas rescues the boys from a barrel, but the barrel was originally holding meat pies, not pickles. So I don't know where you get pickles from that, but so either it's like little children were pickled and dismembered and pickled, and then St. Nicholas resurrected them from the pickle brine, or I don't know, it's weird German shit. I have no idea.
So now you got to find the pickle in the tree, and then you get the gift.
Or it has something to do with like the good fortune of St. Nicholas, who resurrected boys, which I've never heard of, like St. Nicholas like bringing people back from the dead. I didn't know that you could ask him for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was always told he couldn't do that. I was lied to.
Yeah, I guess so.
I had no idea that's so the pickle thing. I see it everywhere. You go Christmas shopping or whatever, and you like.
No, I haven't seen it everywhere.
This is a pickle ornament out and about.
2 days ago, when I did the research for tonight's show, was the first time I heard of any of this shit. I have never seen a pickle in relation to Christmas at all. So,
I've been seeing it for the last couple of years, and I'm like, what is the deal? Why is this a pickle? And at first I just thought it was like an ornament or whatever. And there was so the first time I had seen it was in a Dollar Tree. And it even came with a little card that explained that you hide the pickle, and whoever finds the pickle gets an extra gift or whatever. And I'm like, what is this? Is this the new Elf on the Shelf? What is what's the Christmas pickle? And I thought that was very strange. And then and then you see it. I don't know, there's pickle ornaments, but like you see all kinds of weird ornaments, and you're like, oh, whatever. People like weird stuff, like I buy people ornaments every year. And one that keeps popping up is an avocado. I don't think there's anything behind it. I just think it's like a millennial ornament. I don't know.
Oh, at this point, who fucking knows? They're
Like,
they're folding everything into this thing except for more Jesus. Like, I think they're just trying to bring it away from Christ as much as possible. So.
I mean, it could be, so the pickle's weird, but the pickle I know, at least I'm pretty sure has been around for a long time. It just hasn't been a tradition here. And and then so I was on a thread the other day and on somewhere, and people were arguing about the Christmas pickle and its origins, and they were talking about, a lot of people think it's German, but it's not really German. It's not, it's American. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know anything about this pickle, so.
Right. Well, in the Civil War, origin, the prisoner was Bavarian, an area of what is now Germany. So that ties into the German thing.
Okay.
And then St. Nicholas was German too, right? Because I had babysitters growing up and the family was German, and they used to do all kinds of weird shit where they put their shoes out and all that stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like the Feast of St. Nicholas, and it's like in early December, and you put your shoes out and you get candy in your shoes and stuff.
Yeah. We're gonna kind of talk about that. Well, sort of. Maybe not in that way, but yes, but the shoe thing is kind of a popular across multiple cultures. It's kind of a popular. Now we have stockings, so we still kind of do the shoe thing, except they're stockings, right? And it's not like it's Christmas, Santa brings it. So, it's kind of, we've made it a little differently, but it's kind of the same thing. I think that's why we do stockings, is because St. Nicholas was supposed to leave gifts in the shoes. So that's where that comes from. But before I want to get into the heavy metal stuff, I want to mention this one that was really strange. It's very weird. So in Catalonia, now there's all kinds of like weird traditions and stuff like that. We're not going to sit here and cover every single one of them. But we definitely wanted to pick out some key points. Like Krampus is a big one. I think the Christmas pickle, it's coming. It's going to be here soon, like the elf. And so, I think it's going to be a big one. But this one's in Catalonia, and what they do is they take a log, okay, and they'll like draw a face on like the front, the quote unquote front of the log, and they'll like kind of cut out like a mouth, and like they'll make like a hole kind of that goes through. So like over the course of a couple of days, throughout December,
they fucked a hole.
They put no almost but they put stuff in the hole. They feed it stuff like candies and fruits and nuts and whatever. They feed it things. And so then on Christmas Eve, they all get together as a family and they beat the shit literally out of the log until it poops out all the stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, and they sing this song that or like a rhyme of some sort that basically says, if you don't crap well, I'll beat you with a stick. God, this is what it says. So yeah, that's what they do. It's
all right,
very interesting.
And you have something more metal than that?
Yes, there's something more metal than that. I wanted to take a minute and talk about another emerging kind of fad. Well, like we talked about, Krampus has become like a cool thing, right? People like Krampus. He's
right.
Cool. He's edgy.
Yeah.
But if you really want to get cool and edgy, because now Krampus, he's too mainstream. You got to move on from that. Now it's the Icelandic Christmas people. It's their folklore basically that they have is very interesting because it all ties in together. Okay, so first, they have this lady, which I think it's pronounced Grilla, is how they say it, Grilla. And apparently she was basically like a witch and she liked to eat kids. So the town cast her out and made her go live in a cave, which, the stories change, but most commonly she went to go live in a cave. And every Christmas she comes out, or around Christmas, she'll come out looking for more kids to eat. So of course, she'll ask the parents, and the parents get to decide, they can either give their kids up to Grilla, or she can, they'll give her food and stuff like that in place of the kid. So if you're bad and you're a bad kid, then your parents are going to let Grilla eat you. And so, Grilla has a husband, and, she also has, so she's got, that's a whole family. She's got a husband, then her and her husband have 13 kids together, and they also have the family cat. So the cat is probably the most famous. It's what everybody recognizes, but it's the Yule cat. And so the Yule cat, his deal is that he goes out on Christmas Eve, and he eats people that did not receive new clothes before Christmas Eve. So if you if you did not get a new, if you didn't get socks, you're fucked. You're getting eaten by the Yule cat. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting, because that could be like, if they really did have like giant like phantom cats in the area that were like mauling people, they wouldn't know. They'd be like, oh, it's the Yule cat. That's what they would, I guess it could potentially be a cryptid.
Right.
But yeah, apparently that's what it is. Now, they say that the Yule cat was made because it had to do with factory workers and like wool shops, and how they wanted them to get the work done quicker. So then they kind of created this legend that, and as soon as they got the work done, they all got new outfits, and they were so underpaid that they couldn't afford new outfits. So if they got the work done quicker, they'd gift them new outfits, and they wouldn't be eaten by the Yule cat. So I don't know how they got people scared of this. Like, I'd imagine like the first year, when they didn't get the work done, like what they did, they just killed people and was like, oh, look what the Yule cat did.
I don't know. Anytime it talks about leaving food out so that the animals don't come and eat your children, that sounds like basic like survivalism for the area, where like, because think about it, like, when they would talk about like, oh, we're gonna leave, some kind of sacrifice in the woods to appease the woods, like that makes sense. If there's a fucking bear out there and you leave, a bunch of food for it, well, then the bear's not going to come into town looking for food.
It's going to go for the food. Yes. But
yeah. So if there's if there's big cats in the area that get hungry in the wintertime, feeding them so that they don't come and eat you is pretty logical.
No, the cat only goes after people that didn't get a new outfit. Grilla is the one, she'll take.
Well, that's weird. Because that has a weird commercial, consumerism bent to it.
That's a very strange thing, right? It's
right.
Weird. Now, like I said, Grilla, she makes sense. Now she's a giant too. Grilla's like scary. She's horrifying. She's a big giant lady, and she'll come out and she'll eat your children. Specifically, she likes to eat child stew, and rumor has it that she keeps children for like her special occasion stew that she'll make with the children. So even if she doesn't eat you right away, she's going to keep you for a while, and eventually she'll eat you. So onto the kids now. They got 13 kids. They've been busy. I don't remember her husband's name. And so the kind of hilariously ironic thing about it is that, like, even though she has a husband, like, as the legend goes, he's really lazy and he just stays home. So she's married, but her husband, he stays, he's a couch potato. So the kids are kind of the fun part, because this is again into that boot filling thing. So if the kids, they will start coming out on the 12th of December, and they come out one by one, and then they go back one by one as well. So like the first one that comes out on the 12th will also go back starting on the 25th. So anyway, so they come out, and each of them, they're kind of like the 7 dwarves, except there's 13 of them, and they're in Iceland in a cave. But they kind of have like their own, like their names are kind of representative of like what they do. And, of course, there are names that I can't pronounce, and I'm not going to go through all of them. But, they all have a different role that they play. But the fun for the kids, it's kind of turned from like they're mischief makers to like now it's fun. So for the kids, they leave out their shoes, and each one will come and bring them gifts, or bring them little treats and stuff in their shoes as the 13 days goes on. If they're bad kids, though, they get a potato.
See, growing up in an Irish family, that's completely flipped. Like, we got potatoes in our shoes when we were good. You know what I mean?
and then nothing else any other time.
Like if we brought home valuable hubcaps for Father to sell.
You got a potato.
Yeah, we got a potato. There you go.
Yeah, so the bad kids get potatoes. So I guess that's not as bad as like coal. Yeah, well, I'd rather have. I don't know, coal. You can make some money off of coal, can't you? I mean,
well, yeah, it's combustible. I mean, yeah, if it's cold, coal can heat the room or something. I don't know.
You could use it for something.
You cook a potato on it.
You could get your coal and your potato together.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think it's pretty. They got two family members that eat people, and then they've got a bunch of bad kids, a bunch of baby kids running around terrorizing the town. And they all do different stuff. Like one of them like steals pots and pans. Like they're kind of like gnomes, like little like they say gnomes,
Sure.
Underwear gnomes. They're like underwear gnomes. But gnomes are known to like steal things and be mischievous and stuff like that. So that's kind of more of what we would recognize them as here, I guess. But no, for the kids, it's turned into a fun thing, and they get potatoes when they're bad. So,
keeping with the gnome.
What's that?
I was gonna say I got something keeping with the gnome thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to. Did you have any Santa Claus stuff you want to get into, or can I do that?
Yeah, no, please go ahead. Yes,
Okay.
I think I'm done with everything I had to cover. So.
Oh, geez. Okay. So, kind of as we hinted at before, every country has its different like myths and stuff and different takes on the Santa Claus thing or the Saint Nick thing, and the American myth, as most Americans kind of accept the Santa Claus mythology, all of that stems from a book that was written in 1902 by L. Frank Baum, who did the Wizard of Oz books. He wrote a book called The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus.
Okay.
And this came out 2 years after his first Wizard of Oz book. And it included Santa Claus in the Wizard of Oz mythos. All right.
Okay.
At the time, much of the American Santa mythos had not been solidified yet, and this book helped to do that. Moving forward, also Santa would become an integral part of the Oz universe and pop up in various other Wizard of Oz books and short stories. So I don't know how familiar you are with Wizard of Oz and all that. Most people just kind of know the movie, and then there was that weird Return to Oz movie that people like to talk about. That's all fucking dark.
The books are fucking weird. They're more like the Oz movie.
Well, there's like 16 of them that he wrote, and he did. And what was very inspiring is that he did not start writing these until he was 44 years old.
Wow!
So it's never too late, kids. But yeah, he was a writer and a newspaper guy, kind of back at the turn of the century, and wrote the Wonderful World of Oz or whatever, and that was the first one, and that's the one that the movie's based on with Dorothy and they go and the witches.
But
and shit.
Even like it's the movie's still more so like the just the series in general, isn't it? Like it's very loosely based off that first book. It just kind of takes elements from different. At least that's the impression I've been under. I haven't read them.
Right. But it goes, so if you look at like the Judy Garland movie back in whatever it came out, right? And then you look at like the 80s Return to Oz movie, the books are more, you can see how the story kind of shifts.
Yeah.
And gets, as the universe expands, it gets darker and weirder. But it also includes Santa Claus, and the Santa Claus that L. Frank Baum came up with is it's where we get the reindeer from, the gift giving to children, the concepts of immortality, which are generally just considered part of it these days, but don't necessarily tie into the St. Nicholas stuff.
No,
right?
Very interesting. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so that was how the American, how we kind of put our stamp in it, was through the Wizard of Oz Santa Claus. And in those books, Santa Claus has an arch nemesis called the Gnome King.
Okay.
And it was someone that he would occasionally do battle with, and they would try to kidnap him. And, different, like I said, he's in a couple different books and short stories. But when you mentioned the gnomes, I always thought that was interesting.
About Santa.
That like there was a foil to Santa, and it's not necessarily Krampus, it's the Gnome King.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of these stories, when I was researching these different, because I'm not an expert in Christmas traditions around the world. That's not what I do for a living. But when I was researching them, Santa Claus always seems to have a sidekick, right? Here, he just happens to have a bunch of them. Sometimes he has multiple ones, but he always, everywhere else, there's Santa Claus, which is, Saint Nick, whatever. But there's Santa, there's a sidekick, and there's an enemy. There's somebody that, well, it's not always an enemy to Santa, but some type of like dark twin to Santa, I guess. Some kind of opposite. We don't really have that here. We don't have our own, we don't have a Krampus here. We don't have those things. Our Santa's nice. He gives coal to kids, but like, that's it. There's no, like, you're not going to get eaten by someone or a cat or whatever, I find that very interesting. But you were talking about the origins of Santa. It reminded me, that, there's a rumor, there's a conspiracy. It's more of an old rumor that Coca-Cola are the ones that invented the image of Santa. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, it's funny now that you mention that because my mom had I don't even know why she did this, but like I grew up in a house with a lot of weird Coca-Cola shit all over the place.
It's
It
something
was
like
like,
that. It's an aesthetic.
yeah, it is, and I think it's some. I don't know if she like threw a dartboard at a Finger Hut catalog
I was like,
and
oh,
just
Coca-Cola.
yeah, exactly. So
Is
yeah,
it or Coca-Cola? It's Coca-Cola.
everything was decorated with Coca-Cola shit growing up. And yeah, and they seem to kind of have the Santa thing on lockdown.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so everybody has always assumed that they created the image of Santa, and with the big beard and the red suit and all that, they're like, oh, Coca-Cola made that, and they did it as a marketing player or whatever. Now, we know that people create stuff for marketing all the time, and it turns into something big, the elf on the shelf, and maybe even the Christmas pickle. I don't know. But but they didn't, because there's been previous like works of writing. Now they might have like made the first visual image of Santa, but he's always kind of been depicted in like red robes and a big beard, and
sure. Well, going back to the Wizard of Oz stuff, yeah, I mean the pictures that I saw did not match up necessarily with the modern day depiction. I could see Coca-Cola at least getting somewhat credit for the 20th century pop imaging of the character.
Right. Right. And I guess that's kind of more what people are saying, is that they popularized that image of Santa that we have today. So, and which might be, maybe they just, rounded him out and made him more, jolly. I don't know. That's, but, no, I mean, for the most part, he kind of looks the same everywhere, but I have noticed, Santa's getting skinnier over the years, right? Have you noticed that? He's not as big.
I guess. I used to, when I was in high school, I dated a girl, and her family made me play Santa every year for her cousins.
Wow.
Yeah, for like 3-4. And then we broke up, and I had to do it one more year. So like I think it was like 3-4 years that I did Santa for these fucking people. And then and the one uncle owned an Ace Hardware in New Lenox, and I'd have to go do Santa for that. And
you've been Santa a lot.
Yeah, because I've always been tall. You know what I mean? And I would have to stick a pillow in the shirt. Not so much anymore. Now I could probably do it sans pillow.
Now you do a proper Santa. Yeah. I worked for like one of the Santa stands at the mall one time, and I was a photographer there, and I tell you what, those Santa Clauses are very interesting people. They really
sure.
They really are, because they're not just Santa like these guys are Santa all year round. They're Santa Claus, and I was talking to the one guy, and they are Santa. Like they don't break character at all. So like we used to have to like escort them in and out of the building and whatnot. And so like during those times, or just when there's no kids around, we'd kind of when you're in the middle of the mall talking to Santa, he's obviously going to be Santa. But even when you're in Santa's dressing room, he's still Santa. And so it was fun though. It was very it was a very heartwarming experience. But the one guy, I'm talking to him and I'm just like, so what do you do, the rest of the year? And he's like, well, I'm Santa. And that's what he's like, he's telling me, and of course this was like 10 years ago, but he's telling me, he's like, he said, do you know who the most recognized character in the world is? And I'm like, no. And I was like, Santa? He's like, no, it's Mickey Mouse. I'm like, okay, fair. He's like, do you know who the second one is? I said, no. He said, Ronald McDonald. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, and third is Santa Claus. He said, people want Santa. People do Christmas in July. People want Santa all year round. I'm like, wow, I had no idea there was a demand for Santa, but there is. But they're great at it. I mean, they really are. The one we had, he was an asshole. Granted, like he'd get pissed. He'd get mad if there was like kids with sticky hands. Like he would have us tell parents to wipe their kids' hands off before they saw him because he didn't want to get shit on his suit. And it's like, dude, you're Santa. Like you're supposed to be.
Right. If you're trying to keep clean, you're in the wrong fucking profession.
No, granted, he was great with the kids. He really, they wouldn't know it, but we would hear about it if if there was even a crumb on him. And so, it was a very strange situation, but very interesting, very interesting people. Like I said, the one guy was an asshole, but the other guy, he was great. He was a great dude. And
so do they leave? I mean, obviously they have to like change into like their street clothes before they leave the mall.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise they'll get spotted in the parking lot getting in their Suburban or whatever.
Right.
So
right, like you see in the movies and stuff. You don't see that stuff happen. Yeah, no, they go. They have like a private dressing area, which the mall just kind of sets up real quick. And it's really interesting. I mean, that was the first time I had ever like realized that there was like a tunnel system in malls. I had no idea that all the stores are connected.
Yeah, in the back. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Because we couldn't walk them through the mall either. We would have to take them. We had a special route that we had to take, and then we had emergency routes that we would have to take just in case we couldn't go the special route. And so we'd have to take them back behind in the walls of the mall and take them to their dressing room. So it was, but yeah, no, they'd go in and then they dress, and we don't have to walk them out from there because they're not Santa. But yeah, we'd have to walk them to their staging area. So that was pretty cool. And then one time when I was a kid, I was probably like 10, but I was past the age of believing in Santa at that point. And, anyway, we lived in this apartment building, and we were outside, and me and my friends, and there's a police car, and out of one of the apartment buildings walks out a police officer with Santa Claus. And like he's like Santa Claus is in handcuffs and he's like going to jail. And so, but we're a bunch of kids and we're like, oh my God, Santa's going to jail. And we're over there being nosy. And the police officer played along. It was very sweet. He played along. He did not let us know that, he was arresting Santa, even though we could tell he was, and we knew. But Santa gave us a bag of cookies that we took and we ate. And then he got into the police car and he went to jail, I guess, or whatever.
For what?
I have no idea. We didn't ask. We were dumb kids because I was like 10. Our parents.
Oh my God. I would do some Google foo and figure that shit
Trying
out.
to figure out why Santa Claus is arrested? Maybe
Yeah.
I could figure that out. I could probably try.
Think about the town and the year. You know what I mean? Like
I could probably get that. It was probably, I think it was before 9/11. I think it was like 2000. And I guess it had to have been. It's probably 2000, 2001. So
yeah, I mean, think about where you were living and just Google like, December 2000 Santa arrested in this town.
Yeah,
and I'm sure somebody.
It's like one of those memories that like I have and I don't really like. I just remembered it, just now talking to you about Santa Claus. So I don't think about it a lot, I guess.
Wow.
Which is weird because it's a bizarre event. I probably should think about it more often. I don't know. But yes, I watched Santa Claus get arrested. He gave us cookies, and they were just like, they were in like a white paper bag, but they were like sugar cookies with like the sugar on top of them.
Well, then he must have been arrested for something fairly benign, because if it was like, child yeah, they wouldn't let you eat. Oh, kids don't eat those cookies.
Right. What I'm saying, the police officer let Santa give us the cookies. Now, granted, this was a different time too. I mean, it was very early 2000s, so I don't know, but that's still pretty irresponsible of the police officer to do.
Well, not if they were arrested him for like DUI or something. I don't know.
That's true.
Like,
It was a drunk Santa, but it was Santa being arrested, and he gave us cookies and we ate them. So,
jeez.
That's my life. That's a pretty good a pretty good summation of my life in general. Tell you, that's my childhood right there. It's one of my
The
happiest
first time
memories.
you spotted a cryptid out in
Yeah,
the wild.
it was Santa.
All right.
So yeah, I just I don't know, but that happened. That was a thing. But you're right. I think I will look into that and see if I can figure out, you know, because you're probably right. There's got to be. I mean, it's fucking Santa Claus. Like, there's got to be something on it.
Well, the headline probably wouldn't say Santa arrested, because if kids saw that in the paper, they would freak the fuck out. But I'm sure with a little bit of massaging the details, you'll come up with something.
Well, there's no like news or anything on it. But then again, like I lived in frankly the ghetto, and a bunch of weird shit happened all the time. One time, this guy got shot in the like out in the parking lot, and it was winter, and so like they came and got his body, but like the blood stained snow stayed until it melted.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's fucking wild. It's crazy. When you think about it. Yeah, it's pretty weird. Yeah, I don't know. So, that's my my life. We had this one guy who he was really nice. So he was like a teenager, right? He originally lived with his mom at the apartment building, and then eventually he aged up and rented his own apartment there at the same place. And so, but he was a good dude. He was good to the kids. We liked him. He was our friend, but he was an adult. It sounds weirder than it is, but it's not that weird. And
Okay.
anyway, so he had like this crazy ex-girlfriend, and she like set his van on fire like at the apartment one time. And like it was a wild. So he's like, he's just kind of pitiful, and he's kind of venting to everybody about it, and he was telling us about it, and we're like, oh man, that really sucks. That's crazy. And anyway, so he ended up like nobody had heard from him for a couple days because again, this is the early 2000s. Your neighbors. You're out with your neighbors. You're not sitting on. Sometimes you had internet, but you're not always sitting on the internet like we do now. You're outside. And nobody had heard from him for a couple days. So we all were like, what's going on? And then like eventually they had the police go and do a welfare check, and he had been shot in his apartment. Someone killed him. And nobody knows who it was to this day. And he was just dead in there. And people would knock on the door and everything. It's a really eerie feeling, because he was in there. He just wasn't going to answer the door.
Right. He was indisposed.
He was busy. So, I don't know. Yeah, again, that's a little looking at my, and that was all probably all that shit I think probably happened the same year. I'm sure of it. So that's what's wrong with me. But
can I tell a totally non-Christmas related story in that vein real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So like I had to be like 12 years old, and I went to go stay at my uncle's house for the weekend because I was raised by a single mom, and they would she'd ship me off every once in a while just for the weekend. She had brothers and sisters that would take care of me so she could like go out for the weekend, do whatever. So one weekend I'm at his place, and he was a single guy, and he had to go into work. There was like an emergency, and he had to go, right? So he called up his one buddy and said, hey, I got to run into work. My nephew's here. Can you come like hang out with him or something? Because I don't want to leave him alone. He's 12. And his buddy was like, yeah, sure. And his buddy was like this guy that he met over the CB radio. Like my uncle was like huge into CB radios. They called it the Hillbilly Internet.
Okay.
And he would like talk to these people, and he'd meet up with them, and it was like a big circle of friends and shit. And it was the fucking Hillbilly Internet back in the day, the same way you would meet people in chat rooms and hang out with them or on Twitter or whatever. So, dude comes over, this guy, Jeremy, comes over, and he's like, and I had known Jeremy, I'd met him before, but I didn't know him that well, but he wasn't like a complete stranger. Right. And he goes, did your uncle leave you money? And I'm like, yeah, he gave me like $40. And he goes, all right, we're going to get weed. And I'm like, okay. So we go and we pick up Jeremy's buddy, who we'll call Kevin, and we've never met before. And all I know is that we're going to buy drugs. And we go to this other person's house who we'll call Jimmy.
Okay.
Now, Jimmy was like a character from, a movie where you would see some dude like in Zubu pants with a handlebar mustache and nunchucks or
Okay.
something. Like this real weird early 90s, like metalhead pot dealer guy, right? And I walk in and they're like, he's like, who's this kid? And I'm like, hey, I'm Pat. And they're like, yeah. He's like, how old are you, Pat? And I'm like, 17. I'm like fucking 12, right? But I'm tall. And he's like, well, sit down. He's like, so what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I work at a hot dog stand. Cause I had a job as a fry cook in like the neighborhood at the time. And he starts telling me the story about how Jimmy, right? The drug dealer starts telling me the story as he's putting like the bag of weed together about how he used to live in Daytona Beach and he used to work at the McDonald's there, right? And that McDonald's was like the spot in Daytona Beach. And like all day long, there was nothing but chicks in bikinis hanging out at this McDonald's. And Jimmy was the fucking manager there. So Jimmy was like king shit of the fucking McDonald's in Daytona Beach. And this McDonald's made so much money that every time once an hour, they would do cash drops and there'd be like envelopes full of like $500 to $1,000 just thick with cash that they would drop in this floor safe, right? So one day Jimmy gets the idea that he's going to rob this McDonald's and he comes in on his day off, which was not unheard of at the time. Cause like I said, this McDonald's was the fucking cornerstone of Daytona Beach. So he comes in and he hops behind the counter and he helps people making food and getting the orders out, right? And then when there's a lull, probably there wasn't a lull while the place was busy, he goes and he hides behind this giant wall of hamburger buns that had just been delivered because he timed it perfectly, right?
Okay.
So he's hiding behind this wall of hamburger buns and the restaurant closes. Then he takes this device that he made from bending a coat hanger and he starts picking up one by one these envelopes out of the floor safe. And I was like, how much did you steal? And he's like, I can't tell you that, dude. I just met you. I was like, okay. He tells me this whole fucking story. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like 12. And so then he sells the fucking bag of weed to my buddy Jeremy, or my uncle's buddy Jeremy. And then they wouldn't let me smoke it because I was too young. So then they smoked it. And then we went to Steak and Shake and we got Steak and Shake. And then Jeremy's buddy Kevin started crying to me about his girlfriend, like his ex-girlfriend that just broke up with him. Then we went back to Kevin's house and we listened to Lords of Acid. I don't know if you're familiar with them. This like crazy industrial band. Yeah. And we just like hung around and I watched these two guys smoke weed. And then Jeremy's friend Kevin was like, yo, you want to see Polaroids of my ex-girlfriend? I was like, okay. He pulls out these like Polaroids of her naked. And it's like, I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then they like took me home. My uncle was like, hey, I'm home. You could drop me back off. And they dropped me back off. And that was it. And I remember my mom's sister, like the next day coming over and like hearing that I went with Jeremy. And she was like, did he try anything with you sexually? Like she was freaking out. Like, why didn't you call me? Like, why didn't you call someone else in the family? Why did you let this, like your weird, like CB radio friend take Pat? And I was, and the first thing she said was like, did he molest you? And I was like, no. But then I'm like, but they did smoke a lot of weed and show me Polaroids of naked women. And I was like, that was kind of fucking weird.
It sounds like you had like the best day for like a 12. It was like one of the best days ever for a 12-year-old.
That's why I am the way I am.
That's the inspiration of Pat's life.
You know what I mean? Just a little slice of life that contributed to the overall mosaic of the person that I would grow up to be.
And and it was so normal. Well, right. I mean, we mentioned these like adult friends and like it definitely, like if my kid started hanging around an adult, I'd be like, what the fuck? You can't. Even like if my kid right now, she's 9, if she hung around a teenager, I'd be like, hell no, you can't do that. Like it's
Right. Oh, definitely decisions were made that I would not repeat with my own children later on in life.
But, I'll tell you, for the most part, a lot of it, now, I got myself into some pretty bad situations, but a lot of it really was very innocent. Like in the case of the dude I was talking about, it's very innocent, there was nothing. And like, I used to have this, I'm probably incriminating myself, but I used to have this kid that would come over and smoke pot. And he was like, so when he started coming over, he lived in my apartment, and this is me as an adult, and he lived in my apartment building, and we bought weed. Me and my husband bought weed off of him because he's a 16-year-old kid. He knows where to get weed. And So we buy weed off of him, and then we used to let him come over. And shit, he'd come over and he'd smoke us out, and we'd smoke him out, and it'd be fine. But in my mind, there was never anything weird about it. He did this honestly, until he was about 18, and then I haven't seen him ever since. But it was cool. We'd hang out. But in my mind, the kid was in a safe place. He was gonna go out there and do drugs. At least he wasn't out there doing stupid shit while he did them. So it was
right. You didn't introduce him to the behavior. You came across him in the wild, and he was already exhibiting the behavior, and you were just like, hey, if you're making a run.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it does sound weird. It's probably kind of fucked up. But then again, his parents should be happy that, he was hanging out with somebody, which, they didn't care. They never found out where he was hanging out at. But, they should be, happy that he was at my house and not somebody else's doing more and worse and whatever. I would never, I wouldn't let him drink and stuff like that, just because that would be on, well, fuck, I was too young to even drink and be on my husband. So I guess the age difference wasn't huge, because I was like 19 when this was happening. So
right. So that's not that big of a deal. Yeah.
But at the same time, fuck, I'd still probably, I'd do it again. Again, I'd rather have the kids at my house doing the things than, out doing it somewhere else, because I know then kids get crazy, they get stupid, and they do stupid shit. And
so that's something that me and my wife talk about all the time, because we both had the upbringing where we had the party house.
Yeah.
Right? And it's different though. You can't have the party house anymore. You can't do that. And I understand that, so my, postscript to that story is, my uncle died about 5 years ago, and at his funeral, Jeremy was there. And I'm like, do you remember? And I told the story that I just told you. And he got real nervous, and he was like, yeah, I remember that. And I'm like, yeah, that was fucking crazy. And he probably thought that I was going to be like, you ruined my life. I was, now that I'm a fucking adult, now I'm 35 and I'm going to kick your ass. But it's just I think back then, for better or worse, things were different. But it's so weird, because why were they different? Why was so little thought put into, were they necessarily better or worse? I don't think that I would like to see that kind of behavior repeated with my children. Now, the fact that it did, I don't think was the worst thing in the world, but I think it was definitely, there's a couple different ways that story could have taken a dark turn. You know what I mean?
Right.
Luckily the drug dealer's house that they brought me to was this goofball from fucking Daytona Beach that used to steal from McDonald's,
Right.
And luckily that there was no car accidents with these two goofballs driving around fucking smoking pot. And they brought me back to the apartment. They put on Lords of Acid and showed me Polaroids or whatever, and that was it. And it was really fairly innocent. It didn't take a turn, but there's so many different points in that story where it could have gone south,
Yes. Right.
And it could have been a completely different story that I would definitely not be telling on a podcast right now.
I mean, I've got good stories, but I have a lot of bad stories also. I'm
right, and
the definition of it going south, and and even I will share those. But but I know from experience that yes, it can go very badly, and so that's why I don't want.
And when I think of and when I think about the stories that I too have that go south, they kind of start off like that as well. And it's you know what I mean? They start off as and it's people being stupid and goofy, and then shit just starts happening. So I don't know. I think that as parents, we just try not to roll the dice, with our kids.
Oh yeah, if there's risk, you definitely don't want to, put that out there. I mean, thankfully, I don't have to worry about anything like that for another couple of years. So,
but, do you?
I mean,
I don't know.
She's still young, so it's it's fine. But
I don't know.
Stop it.
I have a 9-year-old too, and that's not. I feel like it's it's less than 5 years away.
So she's still pretty innocent. So I'll keep it that way as long as I can. She does. I'm excited about it. She does. But anyway, so back to Santa. So don't let your kids do drugs if you can help it. But they're probably going to. So just accept that. what the moral of the story is.
They'll wind up at speakeasies going to whiteout parties on Kwanzaa.
And drinking at the park at almost 30.
Right.
Exactly.
Trying to talk to dead motherfuckers.
Right, exactly. Well, I guess that's all I got for the Christmas special. I hope you guys.
That's all I got.
I hope Santa brings you everything that you've ever wanted and more. I can't wait until Santa brings his full sack over here and unloads it all underneath my tree. So I tried with that one. I couldn't I couldn't make it very sexy. It's Santa. He's not sexy. That's what we should have talked about. Is Santa Claus sexy?
No.
No, not at all. But we will be back. So
No,
this is our, official. These are our holiday episodes. We will still have an episode next week. There's no time off for us, so. But we'll be back next week with another episode. So we'll see you guys then.